The sterile white walls of Research Station Epsilon-9's medical bay reflected the harsh artificial lighting, creating an environment that Dr. Kravax found perfectly suited for scientific observation. His 4 compound eyes blinked in sequence as he adjusted the sensitivity of his ocular membranes, the iridescent scales along his neck shifting colors from deep purple to an agitated green. "Subject appears to be laughing," Dr. Kravax spoke into his neural recorder, mandibles clicking with uncertainty. This must be noted as an anomalous response. Before him, strapped to the examination table with monitoring devices attached to various points of her body, Marina Rodriguez displayed what the good doctor could only classify as completely inappropriate behavior for someone undergoing intensive pain response testing. "Oh, come on." "That barely tickles," Marina snorted, her dark curls bouncing as she shook with barely contained laughter. "My abuela hits harder than that when I forget to call her on Sundays." Dr. Kravax's assistant, Nurse Pellox, a willowy being with translucent skin that revealed her pulsing organs, backed away from the examination table. Her voice came out as a worried whistle. "Doctor, the human's endorphin levels are rising, but not in the expected stress pattern. Should we terminate the test?" No, Dr. Kravax moved closer, his scaled tail twitching with scientific curiosity. "Increase the stimulus to level 3. The machinery hummed, and Marina's vital signs spiked on the holographic displays floating above her head. Any reasonable species would be screaming in agony. Instead, she burst into another fit of laughter. "Seriously? That's like the time I stepped on a Lego brick in the dark." Marina wiped tears from her eyes, her grin growing wider. "You guys should see your faces right now. Well, what passes for faces anyway?" Dr. Kravax's scales shifted to a confused yellow-orange. In his centuries of xenobiological research, he had never encountered such a bewildering reaction. The Human Pain Response Database had clearly stated that their nervous systems were remarkably similar to most carbon-based life forms. Yet here was Subject Rodriguez, treating a Class 3 pain stimulus like some form of entertainment. "Fascinating," he muttered, making additional notes. "Subject displays signs of amusement during what should be an extremely uncomfortable experience. Previous theories about human pain thresholds may require significant revision." Marina turned her head toward him, brown eyes twinkling with mischief. "Hey doc, want to hear a joke about nerve endings? I promise it's not too shocking." Nurse Pellox's translucent form rippled with concern. "Doctor, I believe the subject may be experiencing cognitive disruption from the stimulus." No, Dr. Kravax waved one of his upper appendages dismissively. "This appears to be standard human humor. Though the timing is questionable." He leaned closer to Marina, his scales now pulsing with a mix of professional curiosity and personal bafflement. "Please, Subject Rodriguez, explain how you can maintain such levity during these procedures." "First off, it's Marina, not Subject Rodriguez. We've been here for 3 hours. You can drop the formal stuff," she chuckled, shifting slightly against her restraints. "And second, if you think this is weird, wait until you hear about the time I broke my arm mountain biking and kept going because, and I quote, the trail was too sick to stop now." Dr. Kravax's scales blanched to an alarmed white. This was going to be a much more interesting study than he had anticipated. Research Station Epsilon-9 hung in the void like a massive crystalline snowflake, its 6 symmetrical arms stretching out from the central hub where Dr. Kravax's pain response laboratory resided. The station's transparent outer walls offered breathtaking views of the nearby nebula, its swirling purples and greens creating an ironically peaceful backdrop for their rather uncomfortable experiments. The Human Voluntary Research Initiative has been surprisingly successful, Dr. Kravax explained to his assembled research team in the main conference chamber. The holographic displays behind him showed statistics, charts, and the smiling faces of various human volunteers. "Though I must admit, Subject Rodriguez is testing the boundaries of our understanding." His team was a collection of the galaxy's finest xenobiologists. Dr. Vazara, whose gelatinous form rippled with bioluminescent patterns, specialized in neurological responses. Professor Thex, an insectoid being with prismatic wings, was their leading expert in biochemical analysis. Nurse Pellox continued monitoring vital signs, her transparent body showing the increased activity of her anxiety glands. The newest addition, Junior Researcher Blipp, a spherical entity who rolled rather than walked, managed data collection. Our facility, Dr. Kravax continued, his scales cycling through professional shades of blue, was specifically designed to study pain responses across species. The Galactic Science Council never expected humans to volunteer so enthusiastically. Professor Thex's wings buzzed with amusement. The recruitment officer said this human actually filled out 3 application forms when the first 2 were lost in processing. Who does that? Someone who thinks pain is hilarious. Apparently, Dr. Vazara bubbled. Her patterns forming what the team had learned was the equivalent of an eye roll. The laboratory itself was a marvel of modern xenoscience. Adaptive medical beds could accommodate any known sentient species. Sensor arrays more sensitive than a Venusian touch moth covered the walls. Pain simulation units, calibrated to the smallest neural impulse, stood ready to deliver precisely measured stimuli. The original study parameters Dr. Kravax pulled up another hologram were designed to establish baseline pain thresholds across species. Simple, straightforward research to help develop universal medical treatments. His scales flickered briefly to embarrassed pink. No one anticipated a species that would turn it into an entertainment opportunity. Junior Researcher Blipp rolled forward, their spherical form vibrating with excitement. The Human Volunteer Program documentation states that Subject Rodriguez listed her previous experience with pain as, and I quote, got hit by a car once. Walked it off. Car had more damage than me should this not have been a disqualifying response. You would think so, Nurse Pellox whistled, her organs swirling with nervous energy. But the human psychological evaluation came back completely normal. Their definition of normal, at least. Dr. Kravax brought up the final display, showing Marina's baseline readings from the morning session. The initiative started as a diplomatic gesture. Humans had just joined the Galactic Commonwealth, and we needed to understand their physiology. Nobody expected them to approach potentially painful medical research with such enthusiasm. Or terrible jokes, Professor Thex added, antennae twitching at the memory of Marina's pun-filled pre-test interview. Regardless, Doctor. Kravax's scales settled into a determined purple. We have a unique opportunity here. Subject Rodriguez's unusual reactions could provide insights into human pain response mechanisms that we never anticipated. We must approach this with scientific rigor, no matter how many bad puns we have to endure. As if on cue, Marina's voice echoed through the station's comm system. Hey, Doc, ready for round 2? I promise not to make any more neuron puns. I'm trying to be more positive. The entire research team collectively groaned, their various alien physiologies expressing exasperation in a remarkable display of cross-species unity. Dr. Kravax's scales cycled through several colors before settling on resigned gray. Back to work, everyone, and someone please disable Subject Rodriguez's access to the comm system. Again, the holographic displays surrounding Marina's test chamber pulsed with an array of readings that Dr. Kravax had never seen before. His team watched from behind the safety glass as their human subject casually reclined on the examination table, looking for all the world like she was at a spa rather than a pain response laboratory. Beginning test sequence alpha, Dr. Kravax announced, his scales rippling with professional determination. Initiating stimulus level 1. The machine hummed to life, sending what should have been an uncomfortable sensation through Marina's right arm. She yawned. You know what this reminds me of? That time I got a massage from a robot on Earth. Now that was painful. The poor thing didn't understand human anatomy and tried to knead my nose. Professor Thex's antennae twitched violently. Subject appears to be attempting humor again. During a pain stimulus. Why does she do this? Increasing to level 2, Dr. Kravax continued, trying to maintain his scientific composure. The readings spiked, showing clear pain signals traveling through Marina's nervous system. Oh wow, that's getting spicy, Marina grinned, wiggling her fingers. Hey Dr. K, what do you call a nervous system that tells jokes? A funny bone. Get it? Because, okay, tough crowd. Dr. Vazara's gelatinous form rippled with confusion. The subject's endorphin levels are rising, but they're following a pattern more commonly associated with entertainment? This cannot be right. Level 3, Dr. Kravax announced, his scales now showing distinct patches of frustrated orange. The machine's hum increased, and the neural monitoring equipment lit up like a festival display. Marina burst into actual giggles. This is better than the time I accidentally sat on my cat's tail and she used my leg as a scratching post. though honestly, she was way more thorough. Junior Researcher Blipp rolled back and forth anxiously. "Doctor, the subject's pain receptors are definitely firing, but her psychological response is unprecedented. Should we not be concerned?" Level 4 Dr. Kravax's voice carried a note of determination bordering on desperation. The stimulus now reached levels that would have most species requesting immediate termination of the experiment. "Now that's what I'm talking about," Marina exclaimed, actually looking excited. "This is like that time I tried my cousin's extra spicy death sauce. Though the sauce had better marketing, I'll give it that. Maybe you should call this the slightly annoying tickle machine instead of neural response calibrator, just a suggestion." Nurse Pellox's transparent form showed her anxiety glands working overtime. "Doctor, her vital signs are stable, but she's genuinely enjoying this. I don't understand." Level 5 Dr. Kravax practically hissed, his scales now a kaleidoscope of scientific frustration. The machine reached its halfway point, generating enough discomfort to send most carbon-based life forms into a state of severe distress. Marina started humming what she later identified as "Another One Bites the Dust" while tapping her foot to the rhythm. "You know what would make this better? Some background music? Maybe a light show? We could turn this whole thing into a party." Dr. Kravax's professional demeanor finally cracked. "Subject Rodriguez. This is a serious scientific study of pain response mechanisms across species. It is not entertainment." "Why not both?" Marina winked at him. "I mean, science is basically just poking things to see what happens, right? And right now, you're literally poking me to see what happens. That's pretty funny if you think about it." Professor Thex buzzed over to the neural readings, wings flickering with academic interest. "Fascinating. The subject is actually using humor as some sort of neural pathway modification. The pain signals are being rerouted through pleasure centers." "That's what she said," Marina called out, then immediately broke into another fit of laughter at her own joke, leaving the research team to stare in bewilderment at their readings. Dr. Kravax's scales had settled into a deeply confused mixture of purple and green. "Subject Rodriguez, your ability to maintain this level of levity during intense neural stimulation is unprecedented. How are you doing this?" Well, Marina adjusted herself on the table, looking thoughtful despite the ongoing pain stimulus. "My grandpa always said if you're going through hell, might as well stop for some marshmallows. Though I don't think he meant it quite this literally." Dr. Vazara's bioluminescent patterns formed complex equations. The human is using humor as a cognitive defense mechanism, but the effectiveness is off the charts. This defies every known model of pain response we have. Level 6 Dr. Kravax announced, now purely driven by scientific curiosity. The machine's hum became a definite whine. "Now this," Marina declared with genuine enthusiasm, "is what I call a workout. Better than hot yoga. Though the company was prettier at yoga, no offense, Dr. K. Your scales are lovely, but you're not really my type." Dr. Kravax's scales turned a shade of mortified pink that none of his team had ever seen before. He quickly shut down the machine, unable to maintain his professional distance in the face of such relentless cheerfulness. "I believe," he announced to his thoroughly baffled research team, "that we need to completely reconsider our approach to human pain response studies, and possibly our understanding of human psychology in general." "Oh, we're done already," Marina pouted playfully, just when it was getting good. "Same time tomorrow? I'll bring jokes about axons. They're way better than the neuron ones." News of the unusual human test subject spread through Research Station Epsilon-9 like a quantum wave collapse. The observation gallery, normally empty during pain response trials, now hosted a growing crowd of alien scientists from other departments. Their varied forms pressed against the transparent barriers, creating a living rainbow of scientific curiosity. Dr. Kravax stood before the control panel, his scales a determined shade of deep purple. "Beginning maximum intensity trial, take 3. Subject Rodriguez has been informed of all safety protocols." "Bold of you to assume I read those," Marina called out cheerfully from the testing chamber. "I just liked all the pretty warning symbols." A collective gasp rippled through the observation gallery. A Zenteran physicist crystal structure actually cracked from shock. 2 Valaxian researchers began recording frantic notes about human disregard for personal safety. "Initiating sequence," Dr. Kravax announced, trying to maintain his composure. Level 7. The machine's hum rose to a threatening growl. Marina stretched her arms above her head, looking completely relaxed. You know what this reminds me of? That time I tried to teach my robot vacuum to dance tango. Now that was painful, especially for my toes. Professor Thex's wings buzzed with agitation. The subject continues to reference previous painful experiences as sources of amusement. Is this a common human coping mechanism, or a unique psychological deviation? Level 8 Dr. Kravax called out, his voice slightly strained. The neural monitors showed pain signals that would have most species unconscious. Getting warmer, Marina sang out. Though still not as bad as the time I ate ghost peppers on a dare. Now there's a story that ends with a fire department visit. The gathered scientists murmured among themselves. A quantum consciousness researcher fainted, their energy field fluctuating with overload. Dr. Vazara's bioluminescent patterns formed increasingly complex confusion spirals. Level 9 Dr. Kravax announced, his scales now showing spots of worried yellow. Subject Rodriguez, please report any actual distress signals. Marina responded by launching into what she called her spicy time dance moves limited only by the monitoring equipment attached to her. Hey everyone, what do you call a neuroscientist who can't help but dance? A brainwave raver. The joke triggered a cascade of cultural misunderstandings. Three logical perfection aliens began a heated debate about the semantic impossibility of brainwaves attending underground music events. A group of hive mind researchers attempted to analyze the joke's structure through collective consciousness, resulting in a minor psychic feedback loop. Maximum level Dr. Kravax declared, his professional facade cracking. This is beyond any previous human pain tolerance recordings. The machine reached its peak output. The observation gallery held its collective breath, using whatever respiratory or energy exchange systems they possessed. Marina's vital signs spiked dramatically on the displays. Now this, she announced with genuine appreciation, is what I call a party. Though the music could use some work. Maybe add a beat, something you can really feel in your neurons. Junior Researcher Blipp rolled into a corner, their spherical form vibrating with cognitive dissonance. Nurse Pellox's transparent body showed her anxiety glands had completely shut down from overload. A distinguished galactic anthropologist stepped forward, their crystalline form glowing with academic fervor. Perhaps we are witnessing a previously undocumented human defense mechanism? A cultural evolution of pain response. Or perhaps Marina suggested, still grinning despite the intense neural stimulation, humans are just really good at finding fun in weird places. Like that time I went camping in a thunderstorm and turned it into an impromptu light show. Dr. Kravax's scales had begun showing colors previously unknown to xenobiology. Subject Rodriguez, your ability to maintain cognitive function and humor at these levels defies all known scientific principles. Thanks, Marina beamed. I try to defy at least 3 laws of nature before breakfast. Keeps life interesting. The gathered scientists erupted into chaos. Research proposals were hastily drafted on various data pads. The quantum consciousness researcher regained consciousness only to faint again. The hive mind researchers had achieved a new state of collective confusion previously thought impossible. I believe Dr. Kravax announced, his scales settling into a resigned gray, we need to completely reevaluate our understanding of human psychological responses and possibly invest in better entertainment facilities for our research subjects. Now you're talking, Marina cheerfully called out. I've got some great ideas for the recreation room. How do you folks feel about karaoke? Pain tolerance singing contest, anyone? The suggestion caused another wave of confusion through the observation gallery. 3 more scientists fainted. The logical perfection aliens began drafting a formal protest about the impossibility of quantifying fun. Dr. Kravax finally shut down the machine, his professional curiosity warring with his growing concern for the sanity of his fellow researchers. I think that's enough testing for today. Subject Rodriguez, do you require any recovery time? Nah, I'm good. Marina hopped off the table, stretching casually. Though I wouldn't say no to a coffee. Hey, what do you call a caffeinated alien scientist? An unidentified flying espresso. In the quiet of his private research office, Dr. Kravax sat across from Marina, his scales shifting through thoughtful shades of blue. The day's test results floated between them in holographic displays, each graph and chart telling a story that defied conventional xenobiological understanding. So Marina began, casually sipping what the station's synthesizers claimed was coffee. I guess you want to know why I keep laughing when you try to cause me intense discomfort. Yes, Dr. Kravax's mandibles clicked softly. Your responses have challenged every established theory we have about pain management and neural processing. Marina leaned back in her chair, considering. You know how some people see a glass as half full or half empty? Well, humans figured out that sometimes you just have to drink whatever's in the glass and make jokes about the taste. Dr. Vazara, who had insisted on being present for this discussion, rippled with curiosity. But the neural pathways we observed. You were actively converting pain signals into pleasure responses. How? Not exactly, Marina corrected, grinning. Look, humans have been dealing with pain since we first stood upright and immediately fell over. We learned pretty quick that screaming about it doesn't help much. But laughing? That releases all sorts of nice chemicals in our brains. Dr. Kravax's scales shifted to an intrigued purple. You are suggesting that humans developed humor as a biological defense mechanism. More like we weaponized it, Marina chuckled. Think about it. When everything hurts, you have two choices: cry about it or find the funny side. Most humans I know choose option 2. Especially if we can make other people laugh too. Professor Thex buzzed into the office, waving a data pad excitedly. The implications for medical treatment across species are extraordinary. If we could understand this response mechanism. Oh, that's not even the best part, Marina interrupted, her eyes twinkling. You should see what happens when humans get competitive about their pain tolerance. Ever heard of the hold my beer and watch this phenomenon? Dr. Kravax's scales blanched to alarmed white. There's more. So much more, Marina nodded sagely. Humans turn everything into a game or a joke, especially the painful stuff. It's like our superpower. Pain tries to break us down, we turn it into a stand-up comedy routine. The research team exchanged looks of dawning comprehension. Dr. Vazara's bioluminescent patterns formed complex equations of understanding. Professor Thex's wings hummed with excitement. This changes everything, Dr. Kravax muttered, his scales cycling through revelation colors. Our entire approach to xenobiological pain response studies has been way too serious, Marina suggested helpfully. Yeah, that's your problem right there. You can't study human pain response without accounting for our weird sense of humor. It's like trying to understand a duck without factoring in the quack. Duck, Professor Thex questioned. Never mind, Earth reference, Marina waved it off. Point is, humans don't just endure pain, we turn it into entertainment. Remember that video I showed you of people eating super spicy wings while trying to answer questions? Dr. Kravax's scales showed a mix of horror and fascination. Yes, though I still don't understand why anyone would voluntarily. Exactly, Marina clapped her hands. You don't need to understand why. Just accept that humans will always find a way to laugh at their own suffering. It's kind of our thing. The implications rippled through the research team like a shockwave. Decades of pain response studies would need to be reevaluated. Medical treatment protocols across the galaxy would require revision. And somewhere, in the vast expanse of space, humans were probably already turning it all into a new form of entertainment. I believe, Dr. Kravax announced, his scales settling into a determined shade of purpose. We need to write a new chapter in xenobiology, one that accounts for the human ability to transform pain into performance art. Now you're getting it, Marina raised her coffee cup in salute. Want to hear a joke about scientific breakthroughs? No? Too late, I've already got a hypothesis. Official research report, Xenobiological Study XB779. Subject, human pain response mechanisms. Principal researcher, Dr. Kravax. Status paradigm shift required. Dr. Kravax's scales glowed with professional pride as he recorded the final entry in his research log, while Marina performed what she called victory stretches in the background. In conclusion, our understanding of human physiological responses requires complete revision. Their ability to transform pain into entertainment represents not merely a coping mechanism, but a sophisticated evolutionary advantage we have only begun to comprehend. Don't forget to mention the jokes Marina called out, now attempting to teach Junior Researcher Blipp how to do a cartwheel. The spherical alien was surprisingly enthusiastic, if not particularly successful. The subject's persistent use of humor, Dr. Kravax continued, his scales shifting to amused turquoise, demonstrates a previously undocumented form of neural adaptation. Humans have developed the remarkable ability to rewire their pain responses through social interaction and cognitive reframing. Nurse Pellox floated past, her transparent form showing significantly reduced anxiety gland activity. She had finally accepted that humans were simply going to human, logic and reason be damned. Furthermore, Dr. Kravax dictated, I recommend immediate revision of all human medical treatment protocols. Integration of entertainment elements may significantly improve therapeutic outcomes, though I strongly advise against letting patients write their own material. I heard that Marina laughed, now attempting to organize what she called a pain tolerance talent show among the more adventurous researchers. Professor Thex had already signed up to demonstrate his species' remarkable resistance to electrical shocks, though he insisted on working his own jokes into the routine. The implications for interspecies medical care are profound, Dr. Kravax concluded. Humans do not merely endure pain, they actively challenge it to a dance-off. This requires a fundamental shift in how we approach human patients and test subjects. As he finished the report, Marina approached his desk with a mischievous grin. So, Doc, same time next week? I've been working on my material. How about a callback to that level 9 stimulus? Talk about a shocking experience. Dr. Kravax's scales cycled through every shade of exasperation before settling on fond amusement. The Galactic Science Council will never believe this report. Sure, they will. Marina winked. Just tell them it hurt you more than it hurt me. As the human sauntered away, Dr. Kravax added one final personal note to his log. Perhaps the greatest discovery is not the human pain response itself, but their extraordinary ability to make the rest of us laugh along with them, though their jokes still need work. I heard that too. Marina's voice echoed down the corridor. Just wait until you hear my new material about neural transmitters. It's got great synapse. End report. All future pain response studies involving humans to be equipped with recording equipment. These sessions are too valuable for both science and entertainment to go undocumented.